Hello. Can everyone hear me? Please let me know in the chat. We were having some weird connection problems, so we'll see if that is sorted out. But there's Mark. I don't know if anyone here knows Mark besides Sophia and maybe some other people, but we'll see. Mark Chaos Coffee Chat. I think we should rename it to that probably, but how are you doing today? What's going on, Mark?
I'm doing great. Yeah, no, Mondays are always awesome. Just off to a fresh start, getting everything booted up, talking with the team members and
Mhm.
planning for the rest of the week and also the quarter. Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah, and we already have our resident troller here, so be prepared for a lot of weird things by Upa. I don't know if you can see that on the screen there. He's already telling weird jokes. But yeah, by the way, I saw somebody in the chat. Chris is going to that conference. Are you going to that conference too? I don't know.
What
I know a lot of the team is going to that conference next week. It's like
I don't think I'm going to it. I remember Jem mentioning, we're gonna hold on any sort of releases during that conference to make sure we mitigate any sort of issues that may arise. But yeah, I don't know. A lot of the different conferences for me is just like, a couple days before, Mark, we're gonna need you here. We're like, all right, cool. I'll see you. See you there.
that's cool. Yeah, I know a lot of people are going. I think Mark is going, and Rosie's definitely going, and then Chevet might be going. I think so. Maybe Chevet is going, and then I think I saw Brian or someone. I don't know. I don't know how
Yeah,
many
Brian
people are
was saying something about prepping his slides, so he'll have some his good stuff going on.
going. Oh, yeah. So I'm excited. I'll definitely, if he's doing a talk, I'll go see it. Yeah, and Chris, I don't know. I think my internet. I have an Ethernet cord and everything, but my internet is just weird right now. We only have Xfinity here, so if you guys know Xfinity, there's only one provider where I live, and it's like they come in every month and they say, "Oh yeah, it's great internet here," and we're like, "No, it's really bad." But it is what it is. I know, but I was really curious because actually, if you guys don't know, so me and Mark, we've never have never had like a video call or anything before, so this is pretty like our first time meeting ever. So I'm really curious, Mark. Like, I've talked to Savo before, so I know Savo. Are you? So how did this happen? Like, how did pieces come to be? Were you in the beginning? Can you kind of
Uh,
tell the story, like, of who you are
Absolutely.
like
No, those are
pieces?
really great questions. Yeah, no, yeah, how did pieces came to be? That's a really great question. And then also too, like, how did I meet Savo is also another funny one. But I'll focus on just kind of how pieces came to be, and like where I intersected in the journey. And it kind of goes hand in hand with, me meeting Savo, since he's the, technical co-founder of Pieces, along with Mac, who's also a co-founder. But yeah, so it actually goes back to, oh man, what year is it? It's like 2017. Yeah, 2017. Wherein I actually met Savo. I transferred to Miami, and I met Savo, and we hit it off immediately. Just because you know we both we were computer science, and yeah. Beyond that, I figured out that he started to do a bunch of like startup stuff. So I didn't really know what that meant at the time, and I was like very kind of like new to that whole world. But I tell people this like every time, like he like first and foremost, he was like my friend to start out with, and then we became coworkers. And he's still my friend to this day, as well as coworkers, which is great. That you kind of get that a lot with startups. But the first startup that I worked on him with was a company called Mesh My Campus, which was just a collaboration app for higher education. And you can think pretty much just like Slack on steroids, is kind of how we
Okay.
described it. But yeah, we worked on this company for And it had been around for a little bit, at least a year since when I joined. And I'll never forget the moment where I collected like my first paycheck. I was like, I honestly felt like I was just like I beat the game. I just like beat the game because like I I had felt like, I everything that I'm doing with like computer science and coding was like so much fun for me. So when I actually made money, I felt like, oh my gosh, how am I getting paid for this? Like this is
I
crazy.
know. That
Uh,
is crazy when you make like your first money from coding or doing anything technical, and you're like, "Whoa, this is my hobby. This is the thing that I like, and now people are paying me."
yeah.
It
I know
is
I
crazy.
could not I could not believe it. And like even to this day, thinking back to it, I'll never forget it.
And
But
also, I don't want to interrupt you, but Upa just said something interesting. He's been kind of messing around with pieces the last week or two, I think, and he said, "Let me get this off my chest." I think I'm finally settling with pieces as my main LLM copilot because I was able to use three top dog LLM models simultaneously. So I'm very glad to hear that, Upa. I'm still wanting to do a live stream with how you use pieces because he's all into like the home lab Docker stuff, DevOps. So I'm really curious how he actually uses it. But
yeah,
he was kind of hesitant about using it, and I was like, you should try it though, and he did. So I'm glad he likes it.
nice. Yeah,
Um,
I am too. That's awesome. That's great feedback. But yeah, just continuing on with the story, from Mesh My Campus, we pivoted into a different company, and all of the code that was written, we basically just stripped it away from our first or my first startup, and it was I believe Savo's second startup, and we came up with a company, and this was more of like a project idea. We didn't really pivot companies yet, and it was called Runtime. And basically, what Runtime was is it was just a component library for web components. So think like something like Angular or something like Vue. So basically, just a JavaScript framework to be able to build websites, web apps, all that sort of fun stuff. So we recycled a lot of the same stuff that we were working on, and with that, and I think actually I remember I was driving with Savo and we were heading back to his place in Mason, and he was like, I just had this this idea about a file fragment, and you'll hear us say it, but you won't see the messaging. But what a file fragment is it's like it's not the file that matters. It's like what's in the file that's like that fragment bit, and that idea kept growing on us. So we ended up pivoting away again from runtime. We actually built our first version of pieces with our framework. And we were like, like this is working well, it's performant and all that fun stuff, but we're gonna need to scale the business as well. And what that's gonna mean is it's like we'll have to like bring employees on to help like work with the product and all that, and the boot up for that was a bit complex. So we're like, all right, so what we're going to do is we're going to set our company up for scale now. So what we'll do is we'll rebuild the application in Angular, just like a widely used JavaScript framework that anyone can just boot up and start using. With that, we actually raised our first seed round, which was super awesome. And I think it was like 4 to 6 months in the making on that app. It was probably even less. I think it was like probably 3 months. We got an MVP in a month, and I think we had another couple months where we were just like working on the product, and we got really far. And we had a bunch of user interviews, and they were like, what are you guys building? Like, what is
mhm,
this? This is just like, yeah, we were doing too much because we were just called pieces at the time. So we were doing file fragments for everybody. And
mhm.
they're like, it doesn't make sense what you guys are doing. You're doing everything. So we were like, all right, we're going to scope in. We're going to scope in, and we're just going to master the developer use case. So that's what we did. And what we also did is we switched away from Angular because we were like, we want to be on the cutting front of technology. We don't want to find ourselves 5 years down the line and be worried about like Angular disappearing or having to keep up with anything like that. So we really decided to jump into Flutter and Dart. And flashback 4 years later, here we are, building the same thing.
That's so cool. So you actually were there since the idea sort of formation part happened, and you've kind of been with Savo the entire journey to this point, which is crazy. And I was actually just talking to Sophia. She's in the chat right now. I think she's still here. We were doing a user interview for technical writers, and she told me that when she first started using Pieces, which was a while ago, I don't know how long, maybe I have no idea how long ago, but at that point there were not like the co-pilots and stuff. It was literally, saving pieces of code, and that was the main thing that was going on. I was like, wow, you were there a while ago. There's because there are so many features right now. And by the way, do you have like a dog in your room or
I
something, or
do,
some kind
yeah.
of animal?
He keeps dropping his bone, so I was able to snag it, and he'll no longer be dropping it.
Okay, because I was hearing like some kind
It's
of
like right
ruffle.
underneath my desk right now.
Right. I'm like, is it a cat or a dog? I just have to know. And Chevy just got here, so Chevet's happy to see you, Mark.
Nice. Hey, Chevy.
Yeah, Chevy was my first pieces person that I had on this live coffee chat, I'm pretty sure. And that was fun because I didn't know, I also didn't know Chevy likes Pokemon, but he does. So interesting fun fact. Um, but yeah, that is really cool that you have kind of been here throughout the entire journey, and now you're here. And what do you think? Did you expect kind of the startup to get this far? Or were you
I'm
just like, oh, it's just a random idea. We're just gonna do this for fun, and then I'll like go get a job or something.
I'm
What were
very
your
like I'm
thoughts?
a very optimistic person. I'm also like I would say I'm absolutely not risk adverse. So I would, with regard to like, so first and foremost, like my whole idea approaching startups was that like, like what I'm doing right now is going to be invaluable for what like for what this means like with regard to experience. Like I think I can't remember how much we were paying ourselves, but it was enough to get by. And like even that was just like awesome because just working with really awesome people, working with your friends, loving what you're doing, and then also too like I think just like the learning in general, like we were basically just being like paid to learn, and paid to like innovate, and like paid to like we say this all the time, and you'll hear this, but like literally just like professional headbangers, literally
Yeah,
just whatever it takes to like get this problem done, and just like continue to bang 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 until you get a brute force solution that works. And then beyond that, it's like, all right, why did that work? And then iterating on that to get a really really awesome solution going. And you can mitigate a lot of that stuff too, with regard to planning, but some of it also requires a lot of experience, and having gone through a lot of those like trials and tribulations. But yeah, you mentioned something that I thought was funny. Yeah, about a year, and somebody asked me about this just the other day. About a year and like 3 months, we introduced the Pieces Cobot with persisted chats, which was
hmm
hilarious. Like even before that, and what we were doing is we were just understanding like what are these file fragments, and a lot of what was like in the app was like really quite wonderful, but there was so much like behind the scenes stuff that like we're working on to make this stuff happen that doesn't
hmm
quite get, I mean, the gravity of the entire project doesn't necessarily get captured and what's just displayed in general. Um, so I remember, yeah, about like roughly like a year and a half ago, we were like, all right, this is like the standard now. But it's also really awesome too, the standard to have like a co-pilot that you can interact with. And then like number two was basically oh man, I kind of lost my train of thought there.
That's
Um,
okay.
mm, yeah, I mean the copilots were like pretty much a standard, and we also wanted to like really master like RAG. Um, but I mean nothing that we're doing really everything. Oh, here's what it was. So like basically the advent of like just massive amount of like chat GPT and stuff like kind of like out there in the wild was so awesome
hmm
because everybody finally just like knew what we were doing. like knew like what like AI was and ML, and we stopped getting the
Yeah.
questions that were like not necessarily stopped getting the questions, but like the questions of like AI is going to take over the world or it's going to take over like XYZ, and more
Right.
questions about like AI is going to actually take over my job and this is like a real thing. It's no longer like any one of the like movies, but it's like a legit thing now, which I thought is, you know, absolutely hilarious.
Yeah.
Uh,
And I also did want to mention they're in the chat, they're having like a whole conversation here about Dan came in and he said, my entire coding process is asking myself, why did that work? Dan, by the way, if you want to come on Twitch, more of the chat is there, so you won't feel lonely if you come on Twitch. I don't think there's a lot of people over on X, just because the UI is really bad over there for streaming. They need to fix that. But and then Upa is giving some feedback about pieces in here. So I don't know if do you want to talk about that here on the stream? I know he said however, I noticed a few new things that can make pieces better. The first one is allowing users to utilize local resources either on Docker or VPS, which could help in conserving CPU resources on the user's computer.
yeah.
So suggestion number one. And then the suggestion number two is the generation of text files, such as YAML or Markdown, isn't consolidated into a single code base for easy copy paste.
Interesting. Yeah.
Oh,
So
where is that? Is that on the desktop app, or where is this generation happening?
Um, yeah, I'm not 100% sure. I need to kind of see. I'd have to ask him. But so yeah, let me actually comment on number one.
Mm-hmm.
Like utilizing, allowing the users to be able to like utilize like Docker, for instance, and like host it wherever you want. That is actually something that I know I've seen it a couple times. I actually have a version of this already shelled out. That's like everybody's individual like VPC, which is just like a virtual private cloud. And kind of how everything's laid out is everybody has their own basically version of Pieces OS, just packaged and put up in the cloud that you can interact
Oh,
with. And there's a couple different
that's
like cloud
cool.
features and stuff, but that's how it's built. So I already have a Docker file that's good to go with this. I'll need to make some minor modifications to support everything. But I imagine this is going to come sooner than later, and it'll probably honestly just be a weekend project of mine. But you'll
That's cool.
absolutely hear about it, and there's many different benefits for it on our side. But one of them is just allowing our users to be able to, you know, take the Docker file or Docker container and serve it wherever they want.
Yeah, that's cool. And also, like you mentioned, cloud. I don't know if this is relevant to this question though, but I was just talking to Sophia, and I think she gave two pieces of main feedback. One of them was about like the onboarding experience, but the other one was about, you know, if it would be cool if like pieces had, you know, a cloud version. So if you wanted to use a different computer, you can easily get all your pieces, all your things that you save there. Because I haven't
Yeah,
actually tried to use it on two different computers, so I wasn't aware that was an issue. But
yeah. Yeah, so that we have like a basic version of this that we released like I want to say it was like a month or two ago. And it's like a long time coming, but just a really simple way to be able to back up and restore all of your pieces from one device to the other. So that's actually in app right now. So if you go to the desktop app and you click your profile, you should
mhm.
see the ability to be able to
Oh,
list like
okay.
restorations or backups, and then you can be able to back up any one of those. I think there is some asterisks there, like one of which is like if you do decide to back up your stuff, it's not going to merge it, so it's going to completely override. So there's a couple of different things
Oh,
you can do to get around it. But yeah, that saves a lot of complexity on our side, because basically what we would have to do is we'd have to deep diff everything, because
mhm.
how yeah, there's a lot of different funky challenges there, and it's basically like building a Git system,
Yeah.
which we'll have to do at some point. But yeah, that's available, and then also too on that second point of enabling pieces to be cloud powered. We've talked about it for a really long time, and actually, right now, there's a subset of endpoints that are not available in the cloud. it wouldn't be too crazy to get them going. The biggest thing is actually our machine learning, because it's already like a rather large just Docker container in general. But we absolutely, absolutely, absolutely 100% are going to make this happen. And having that Docker file would be a step in the right direction for that. But the biggest thing here is actually some of our cloud architecture. What we've done up to this date is to prioritize, since we're a free user, we're free to use, mitigating as much cloud costs as possible. So that's another reason why, I mean, Pieces is just like on device and just like offline, and there's
Oh,
not a
so
lot
maybe
of
here
ability.
it would be, if you had like an account where you were, paying every month, then there would be a cloud.
Oh, shoot, I lost you. I guess it's just me. No, I'm just kidding. Ellie, I'm sure we'll be back shortly. I can talk a little bit about the cloud architecture though. Yeah, I mean, one of the really important things is that like our V1, like I said, was just like basically like we're optimizing cost. So with this, oh nice, it kicked her out. Oh man, that's a bummer. I can also talk about the open source stuff, but I'll finish up on the cloud architecture. Basically, what we're going to do is we're going to revisit our architecture and we're going to set it up for scale. And it is set up for scale, but we're going to actually set it up for performance. So we'll spend a little bit more money and we'll make it way more performant so that we can enable users when they first come into Pieces too, to be able to use a cloud powered version. Also too, if they're like a paying user, it makes it way better. But hey, Ellie, you're back.
Yeah, I'm back. It was weird because I had to disconnect. And I didn't want to exit out of this tab because I'm like, is it gonna end the stream
Oh,
if I
shoot.
do that? It was weird because yeah, it wouldn't let me put I was here the whole time, but it just like kicked me out of this scene and then I couldn't put myself back in. So um weird streaming problems. I have no
Yeah,
idea
so
why.
there was one comment. It says I wouldn't recommend going 100% cloud because it will be very costly. So we understand this, and this is actually one of the main things. Yeah, one of the main reasons why we didn't go 100% cloud to begin with. That being said, there's some optimizations that we can absolutely make too to make it a lot cheaper, and then it can just be a plan specific thing of whether we want to go like ramp them up or whatever. But yeah, no, we'll pretty much always be hybrid, specifically for the cases of like really, really, really deep security, specifically with regard to like the DoD, or any other environments where they need to be like completely offline powered. So we'll stay offline first for the foreseeable future. There's no plans to deprecate anything like that. And
Yeah, and
then, oh yeah,
sorry, Mark.
no, you're all
Go
good.
ahead. Go ahead if you were saying something.
No, yeah, not at all. Go ahead.
I just wanted to comment on the Chevet's point here about the open source thing. I don't know if you were involved in this conversation or saw it. We were talking about it, but me and Chevet and a couple other people were thinking about doing an open source project with the Pieces SDK about
Yeah.
like flashcards. So doing these flashcards because I think the pieces that are saved, the code snippets that are saved in the desktop app are really good. But now I'm thinking like as a student myself, like I'm still learning a lot of I'm in different projects. I would want to study with them and also
Yeah.
maybe like have if I was to save some things more on the soft skills side, I don't know if you've heard of 100 devs with Leon Noel. It's like have you heard
I
about that?
I've only heard it through some of the internal chats I've seen within like the G chat. I don't know
Right.
much about it other than I saw you guys were talking about it. Or I think actually I might have saw it on one of your last live streams or something like that. Sometimes I just tune in and listen.
Yeah, and also Upa, thanks for coming with the troll mode. You can ask whatever if you want to know anything about like whether he likes crust or not, whatever you want to say, Upa. Upa always comes in with the weird questions, but yeah, I did want to kind of touch on this is that I think it would be a really cool way to kind of get students involved. And like you were saying with kind of the inception of pieces in general, like it was a project that you guys were working on and you were learning as you go. And then it's turned into, you know, this company and now a lot of people know about it. I think open source is kind of one way to get the same experience where you're working on something and you're working on it with other people. And then eventually a lot of people are using it. And I think that flashcards could be a way that to kind of replicate that experience, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
And
100%. Yeah.
the reason I mentioned the Leon, the 100 devs thing is because they have basically it's a group, it's a really, really big community of people learning to code. And he makes these videos and he has like homework and he does it all for free and he helps everybody and answers their questions as he's live streams. Really, really cool stuff. There's a Discord channel and everything. And one of the things I guess he advocates for is using flashcards and even interview questions could be on these flashcards like you know, give me your elevator pitch or whatever, and you have to practice that. And so I think that if in my mind something that would improve pieces a lot is if there was a way we can, so I don't know if this is possible right through like open source. I'm really not sure about like the actual application of this, but it would be cool if, you know, you have pieces desktop and then you open up your snippet thing and then there's like another little circle somewhere, little button, and then you click it and then you can add this snippet or whatever you saved to your flashcard folder. You can have different folders and stuff, and then there it would use like the Anki kind of rote memorization system to review your, you can review your flashcards and it will keep track of like which ones you are not confident in. So I the flashcard apps that I like are the ones where you don't just say like, yes, I got it right, or no, I got it wrong. It's like there's 4 different or 5 different options. It's like bad, really bad, neutral. Like maybe you felt like you kind of knew it, but it's not super comfortable, and then good, and then like very good. So, and then it will kind of keep track of your responses and then keep giving you the flashcards that you need to review, whether it's a leak code type of problem or if it's a soft skills or if it's what is this even, what does this, you know, function do, something like that. I think that would be really, really cool. And then we have
Yeah,
100 devs person here
super
too.
possible. Yeah, so that's really possible. There's some things that you'll, so the first thing, first and foremost, it's absolutely possible. Number two, you'll need to add some like custom work on your side. There's no way around it. And custom work, I mean, like even just like persistence in general. Like you could absolutely use whatever snippets that you have saved in pieces, like as some of these flashcards.
Mm-hmm.
So one, it would require a user to have Pieces OS locally. Number
Right,
two, like you could fetch any of those snippets, and then what you could do is you could absolutely have like your own persistence layer in this open source project that links up any one of these flashcards to anything else that you'd want, but you'd have to have your own custom data layer on your own application side of things
right,
because we currently in Pieces, and we've actually talked about this too, but enabling plugins to be able to have their own custom persistence on Pieces OS's side. So that's another like really tricky challenge. Is it possible? Absolutely. We just haven't prioritized it. But you
yeah,
guys could absolutely build the open source project that does that. And also, too, another thing is like that's actually our like ultimate goal is for like people to see value in not only like our products that we build, but like the products that our third parties build off of Pieces OS themselves, and we provide like the functionality for them to make that happen. We
right,
absolutely love that, and it's a like a rather large goal of ours. But I think one of our first couple like thoughts about open source, even flashing back to like the open source inception, is like, hey, what we need to do is like, first, let's open source our SDKs. Second, what we want to do is we want to start open sourcing some of our internal products so people can see like how we're building like any one of our apps on top of Pieces OS. Which, if you even look at the desktop app, anything in the desktop app, literally anything, all of that is powered by Pieces OS. It has a minor set of additional persistence on the desktop app side. That's just additional configuration. But beyond that, it's powered by Pieces OS. So anything and everything you see down to the button click is available.
Right. Yeah. Because what I was thinking is like, definitely you'd need to have Pieces OS installed to use this flashcard thing. I wouldn't want it to be exactly like Anki. I know Adele, that is what I'm talking about, is Anki, which is the spaced repetition. By far the best way to learn, in my opinion, if you're using flashcards. Because I used this when I was learning Mandarin, and I learned so quickly. And basically, it like right when you're about to forget the word or whatever it is you're learning, it will bring it up again. And that's when you actually remember stuff, when you are on the cusp of forgetting, and then it's reintroduced and you have to dig it out of your memory. Then you probably will remember it for a lot longer after that point. So definitely I would want to use this type of learning. But also, if you were having this flashcard app or whatever exist in your, you're using it and you want to learn, what is cool about if you were using the Pieces SDK is if you could use like different LLMs to answer your questions. Like, okay, for example, maybe you have your flashcard and I don't know, maybe you're learning like JavaScript and you are learning like what's an if else statement, something really easy. But maybe you're just learning it for the first time. And then there's something inside of it. I don't know. And then the flashcard is like, what does this do? Okay. And then you look at the other side. Maybe you already wrote your answer by yourself. You could do that. Or maybe there's like a thing, like a little light bulb or something, or one of those AI sparkles. I don't know.
Yeah.
And then you click on it, and then you could get like different responses to what does that do with the different LMs. I don't know. I think that would be a cool way because then you could have different ways of viewing this same question flashcard thing. So even if it was a soft skills thing, like maybe you would prefer Claude answer this rather than ChatGPT. So I think that would be a cool thing to add on top of that, because if you just use a flashcard app normally, then you wouldn't get, all of those different responses. And also the reason why I kind of think it would be really good to have is because I hate making flashcards. I don't like to make flashcards by myself. And I know Leon, for the 100 devs people in the chat, I know Leon is like, oh, you need to make your own flashcards and that's the way you learn. I don't have time for that. And I don't like to do that. So yeah. I know that is an extra step that, sure, that probably would help. But I think you saving this code snippet is also you intentionally saving something. So you are kind of making it, but you don't have to go through the trouble of like actually, if you've ever used an Anki app, it's kind of annoying. Like you have to make the front of the flashcard and then the back of it. And especially if you're learning a different language like Mandarin, you need to add the pinging too. And like change the font color and stuff. It's really annoying in my opinion. So I feel like it would be so cool if we could make them just exist. Like the things that you already want to learn and now you want to review these things. And it would be, like I'm not a notes person either. And I'm not usually a flashcard person, but when I read, or when I used flashcards to learn Mandarin, it really, really helped. And I do think it would help for some things, especially if you're trying to memorize as a beginner. So maybe you're experienced already, then yeah, just read the docs. But like, I think as a beginner, there's some things you do need to kind of memorize.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
Yeah,
no, I completely agree. I think that's really awesome. I mean, I think it's a really good idea. I looked up in my browser really quickly. I've never used Anki. Forgive me if I'm saying that incorrectly. But I have used Quizlet. I'm sure everybody's used Quizlet here. Have you heard of Quizlet?
Right. I've used Quizlet, of course. Yeah, Quizlet is pretty similar, but I don't think it has the spaced repetition. They might have added that, to be fair, but I don't know.
I am not sure.
That's
I
kind of
haven't
the
used
same thing.
Quizlet in a very long time. Yeah, it's been a minute since I used that. I definitely used flashcards though. Um,
They're
in
good
journal,
for some things,
I think
you
we'd
know?
make them as a class, like what we'd do, and then we'd just share them to the rest of the class, and everyone would practice the cards. So, like, as much
Right,
as I do agree that like you're gonna learn when you're making the flashcards, but you're also like, I mean, if you're just practicing the flashcards in general, you're gonna also learn it. It would just kind of like help to
right.
know what you're gonna learn to begin with,
And it
and
would
go
be
from
cool, like, imagine you had a bunch of flashcards that were based on your own code snippets, and maybe you go through, okay, I know that, so some courses like free code camp, there's a lot of repetition, so probably you don't need flashcards for that, but there's some courses, learn to code type courses, there's not that much repetition. They might just introduce the thing one time again and
there.
now they expect you to know this thing. But if you were to save that, and then maybe some of your friends or whoever is also taking the same course, you could share the code snippets that you save from the course with them in a sort of a folder, like they're in folders. Because I think that's one thing that's kind of missing from pieces, unless I just totally missed the option to do that. Because I feel like sometimes I'm like, oh, this doesn't exist. And then someone's like, oh, yeah, it does exist. But it would be
No,
cool.
yeah, you can't share a folder. We don't even have folders right now. It'd be nice to add them. We've talked about it in the past. Right now, like we're really kind of focused on like nothing really net new. What we really, really want to do this quarter in some of our themes is doubling down on performance across the board and opening up things such as like, and there's actually a lot of really awesome stuff that was added last quarter that will find its way up to all the different products. So that's actually one of the reasons why we're not doing anything like net new. Um,
Mhm.
we will do a bunch of net new stuff. But yeah, there's a whole supply chain, if that makes sense, from like
Mhm.
the lowest levels of machine learning all the way up to infrastructure and then all the way up to product. So as time has progressed, there's just backlog, 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 if that makes sense, as
Yeah.
well.
Right. I think that I wouldn't expect pieces to actually just make these flashcards, but I think if we turned it into some open source thing where a lot of people
Oh
could
yeah.
contribute to it, it would be really
Oh
cool,
yeah.
especially for students. I would want to see if there's a way to make it, because I have no idea how this would even, I don't even know where to start with this, but I think that if there was, if it was simple enough, like all of the issues were simple enough where people learning about whatever it is could contribute, it could be really interesting. And I don't know if you saw, I don't know, I think, maybe Upa saw this, Alex, I don't know if you saw this, but recently Francesco came out with a open source project called Rust Crab. And it's basically, I think, a website with a lot of learned Rust resources. I don't know why it's called Rust Crab. Maybe I don't understand the
So
Rust
like
lingo.
the rustations, it's something
Oh,
about
okay.
that.
Crustaceans. Okay. I
Yeah,
guess.
yeah.
That makes sense. But yeah, I didn't get the reference, but a lot of people are contributing to it and it seems like a really good project. Yeah, it is an amazing project. Because I looked at a lot of the issues and they're pretty simple issues. I think one of them was like make a nav bar or something. I'm like, oh, that's good. A lot of people can contribute to that. And so I think it would just be really cool if there was a way to make something um, that was, beginners can contribute to as well, because there's this is like a product for students, so it'd be cool if like students could make it together, but I don't know
Yeah,
how.
no, I love that. And I
Yeah.
also too, like if you guys needed any sort of like, hey, how would you do this? Like with pieces, I'd absolutely give some guidance there as well. Um,
Right.
yeah.
Well, we're thinking about turning it into like a series. So I don't know if you saw that little conversation in the G chat, but I
Didn't.
think yeah, we basically, because I brought up the flashcard thing and then I don't know, I think it was Rosie or somebody said, "Oh, we should do a series about building this in public on the Pieces channel." So we're thinking about actually like building this flashcard app live, but also people can contribute at the same time. We'll kind of go over like what was contributed that week, I think. But and then so I would do that, and then I need somebody else because I don't even know how to do that. So then she tagged, I think somebody tagged like all of the engineers in the company, and then 2 people volunteered. So we are thinking about turning this into like a series, but I don't know how that will go, to be honest. We'll see, but I think it'd be really fun, especially if people are contributing actively. Then they can see kind of the changes and what's going on, like what we are doing, and kind of the progress with that. But I think that would be a really cool series. So we're thinking about doing that.
Yeah, no, I like that. I love that idea. Yeah, no, I would absolutely be interested in like helping out plan some of that stuff. Could absolutely do that. And then also too, just like in passing or even sort of like GitHub issues with regard to like, hey, how to do this or how to do that.
Mhm.
Like that stuff is so easy on my side to do, because I can just, get a link to it, click it, add my feedback, and then move on,
Right.
But yeah, no, I love it. And I love the idea. I think it's like not only the idea, but also to like what it means for like me as a student, like learning, and trying to use like pieces to like help facilitate all my learning. So I think that it's just like so awesome. Love it.
Yeah, I think it'll be really cool. And I think, I don't know how the live streams will look, but I think if it was like a once a week or once every other week kind of update on the project, and we could do some live coding and salt and do, maybe do a PR or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think it's fun. I think it'd be cool. And Upa says 100 days of pieces. That would be cool if somebody did that. And I see Wise is in here. I don't know if you know Wise. Wise, I think he's still a social partner. He's a social partner at Pieces. He said, not 100 sure about Pieces adaptability. How is Pieces handling the dynamic nature of software development? Because new technologies and frameworks are emerging frequently. I guess that means like how does Pieces handle, new information that comes out? Maybe like there's an update in the docs and stuff. And, maybe there's a new version of React that came out. How does it handle that when it maybe it's generating code for you? Will it do the old style or will it do the new style? That's how I interpreted this question.
Yeah, that's kind of how I interpret it too. And like answering this in 2 parts. Like part one, like we're at the mercy. First and foremost, we're at the mercy of the quality of the LLMs. So of the LLMs that are shipped with our app, not only locally but cloud powered, we're at the mercy. Number two, we can leverage technologies like RAG to be able to massively improve on what is currently shipped with these LLMs, their knowledge base. So we've actually, one of the like new things that we're going to add this quarter is also like the ability to be able to like take a doc site or take a markdown file or take some HTML or anything really, and be able to take that and use it. Use it with any LLM. Going to be better with others, I'm sure, just with regard to like context windows and some of the other limitations that the LLMs have. But yeah, I mean, that's how we do it. We do it with RAG. And there's
That's
a
cool.
lot of like low level technologies that we've used to like refine specifically to coding tasks, which set us up better than some of our competitors. But also too, like a lot of our competitors, like we don't believe that we even compete like with other individuals or like other like big companies like Copilot. We're more so like we're additive. We're very complementary. There's a saying that you'll hear a lot, but it's a right tool for the right job. Same
Yeah.
thing goes.
And I saw a video that Krishna, I don't know if you know him, but he posted a video about pieces. I think it was 2 days ago or something. And one kind of way to address this is if you ask a question and it does happen to answer in and it gives you like an outdated answer, you could just scroll through the docs like on your screen and then
Yep,
ask it again and be like, but I have the docs open. Like, how do I solve this
absolutely.
issue that I'm having? And it will, because of live context, like it literally just sees what you're doing. So yeah, I think that's a really good solution. You don't have to like literally copy and paste the entire docs because it probably won't read all of it maybe. Is if you go into ChatGPT and you copy like a whole thing really long, it doesn't, I don't know, maybe they set some limits up or something, but it doesn't actually read all the stuff. Um, so that is also a good way to have it. Just have it up, and it should be able to see what you have going on there. And then,
Absolutely. Yeah, I
yeah,
try to always keep the workstream pattern engine going for that case as well. Like not only, yeah, when I'm coding more so, but also too just like when I'm researching and stuff. Because another one of our jobs is like, well, it solves that problem that you mentioned of like, you know, staying up to date with the most recent stuff that I'm also looking at. But it also solves a different problem, or like a just like a problem that we like as software engineers are just like taught so like rigidly. Is it's like, you know, remember 20% memorize that 20%, and the rest of the 80% go look it up. Go look it up in the
right.
docs, go look it up on a website, go look it up XYZ. But instead of doing it all there and having to remember all those different sources, you just have one source of truth, one sole source of truth, and inside of
Yeah.
pieces.
Yeah, I like that. And I see that um there's some people commenting. Yeah, I know Francesco is having a live stream right now. I didn't know beforehand. I wouldn't have overlapped with him because he's, obviously his live streams are really good. I didn't know he was having one right now. But thanks for being here. I don't know if you're at Friends at the same time, but and then I see Adele said, I think this is about the flashcards thing, but he said, is it just an organized and systematic way to adopt spaced repetition and active recall that are the best studying techniques? According to statistics in certain studies, you can exert a quarter of effort and do much better than conventional ways, like learning by cramming. Yeah, I think what you're saying is, yeah, you if you were to use like the Anki method where you use spaced repetition and then you're almost about to forget something and then you recall it again, you the the chance of you remembering it is way higher than if you're just cramming and you just have a piece of paper and you read it 100 times. You're just not challenging your brain to forget the information. You're just reading it over and over. Then you might not remember it even if you read it 200 times. So it's more likely that if you just look at it a couple times, but then one of those times, maybe like the third or fourth time, maybe the 10th time you look at it, you almost forget and then you recall it again, it'll probably stick in your mind a lot better after that, especially if you go and actually use it later. Use it in context. That's important too. Because if you never used it, especially with coding stuff, like it's going to be hard to remember what that is. And then I see Vladimir's here. Hey Vladimir. You're multi-streaming Upa. Yeah, well, I think there's a couple people that are in Francesco's stream and in this stream right now, so I appreciate that you guys are listening to like two conversations at the same time. And then I see Upa has a question. So he said, Mark, curious, how are you optimizing these models? The performance on the result output are insane. Doesn't matter which LLM.
Yeah, so that's a really good question. There's
Oh,
a
there's a
there's a couple.
raid. Sorry to
Yeah.
interrupt you. Sorry to interrupt you, Mark. There's a bunch of people that just came in here. Thanks for the raid. Is this from Francesco? I think it is. Thanks, Francesco. Thanks for coming. I didn't know you were streaming at the same time. Rust. All right, all right. Thanks for everyone for coming. I didn't know you were streaming. So everyone in the chat earlier was like, Francesco's streaming too. And I was like, oh, oh no. I know raid bots are in effect. Yeah, Vladimir, if you want to join the chat, come to Twitch. There's a bunch of people chatting. I don't think anyone is on X anymore, just because the UI is bad. But you can come hang out. I appreciate you guys. Thanks so much. I see Graham's here. Hey, Graham. Sophia's back. I was talking about you, Sophia, but I guess you were betraying me and going to Fran. I can understand. Francesco's Italian accent is really nice to listen to. I think I need to have a more interesting accent for people to, want to stay in my chat. Maybe I should start doing an Italian accent and, talking like this, and then people will come to my chat instead of Francesco's. Um, but yeah, and it's a CrowdStrike raid, so I don't know. I guess they were talking about CrowdStrike. But I'm glad Francesco got home safe. He was stuck at the airport, and then he took a train, and not a train, a bus. And he ended up being really late. I know I should get an accent. I just have a
Yeah.
normal Florida accent, I guess. Just normal, boring, sad. I should at least be British. I was born in the wrong place. Um, I don't know. Is there any accent that I can do? I don't think there's any that I'm like really, really good at. A Polish accent. I'm really bad at Polish accents. I know. Because actually, for those who don't know, my native language is Polish, but I just didn't speak it for so long. And I grew up in the US and everything, and I was born here, but I first learned Polish, and then I went to kindergarten, and then I just started slowly forgetting everything. I know you wish it was a train, but anyway, at least British is cool, right? The accent is much cooler. Anyway, I appreciate the support. I'm glad I don't have to fake an accent. Uh, I should have used. I should have. I should have. I should. I can. To be fair, I can understand Polish, but the problem is that I just never speak it anymore. So it just slowly exited my brain, and it still existed. But then I learned Mandarin, and I don't know if it was living in the same part of the brain, but after I started learning Mandarin, it like started really pushing it out. Like I could feel it just falling out of my ear, like all the Polish words. And then
Oh,
anytime I go to speak Polish, I accidentally speak Chinese. Like I just can't
oh
speak
my
Polish
gosh.
anymore. It's really bad. I'll just try my best. It's terrible. Really, really bad. Yeah, no, I only know English and Mandarin, and I don't speak any other languages really well. Yeah. But what's going on here? Well, we were talking about Mark and how Mark and Savo met, and how they, everybody created pieces together. And we were talking about pieces and a lot of LLM stuff and AI things, open source. We were talking about a lot of stuff, and then Upa wasn't trolling too hard today. So I think he tried and then he gave up. So that's what's pretty much going on. Do you know any other languages, by the way, Mark?
Do I know any other languages? I wish I did. I do not. Yeah, I mean, I took German back in like high school and middle school, and then more recently, like I've wanted to pick up on Spanish just because it's like it's so widely used in the U.S. So it's like why not? And also too,
Right.
I went to Mexico like a couple months ago, so it's like I learned some Spanish, and I was like, you know what? I want to learn some Spanish, and I've been bad about it. I haven't been learning. Yeah,
I know.
I've
It
been
sucks
slacking.
because
I've been slacking because I've been writing other languages. But yeah,
right,
no.
right. It's this. So I've been using Duolingo to learn Spanish. Helps a lot. I don't know about Duolingo. I have a lot of thoughts about Duolingo. Okay, but the thing is that grew up in the U.S. We all learned Spanish in school, right, for a long time, and then we end up like not knowing any Spanish, which is insane. So that's basically what happened to me too. I mean, I just went to school, learned some Spanish, could not digest it, I guess, and it just exited my brain after I graduated. Like graduation day happened, and like no Spanish after that. Just it completely disappeared. And yeah, someone asked, how did you learn Mandarin? It's interesting because through the whole experience of me learning Spanish, I was really bad, right? And people say that's the closest to English, right? So that should be the easiest to learn, right? And it was very hard for me. I don't know, I just could not. I think it's the way that it was taught, to be honest, because later when I started learning other languages, I was like, oh, actually, it's not that hard to learn a language. It's just our teaching education system and the way they teach languages is ridiculous. I mean, it's insane. It's not according to any kind of good guideline to language learning. I don't know why they do that. But anyway, I couldn't learn Spanish. I really sucked. Like I was the worst, literally the worst in the class, to the point where my Spanish teacher paired me with this really, really smart kid. He was really good, really nerdy, and she sat me right next to him, and she made us be partners for everything. It was so annoying because this guy was so good at Spanish and I was just like, hola, like I literally couldn't say anything. And he got so angry at me sometimes. And I'm like, so the point is, I really did not believe in myself. I think I was like, I'm not a language learner, right? And then later on, fast forward, I'm in. Yeah, I might be glitching. My Wi-Fi is kind of weird today. Hopefully you can hear me though. But I went to university and I started studying international business because I had no idea what I wanted to study. So I was like, all right, I like traveling and stuff, international. That's what I was thinking. And I ended up going to China to study abroad, and I started learning a little bit of Chinese, but then COVID happened right away. Literally, I got there, COVID happened, and they were like, you got to leave. So then me and my friend were like, well, we don't want to go back to the US. So we went to Taiwan. And we ended up signing up for this language school for 4 months. So it was like an immersion language school. You're there for like 8 hours a day, can't speak any English type of thing. And it was crazy because after like 4 months, I was like fluent in Mandarin. Not like fluent to the point where I'm like a native, but fluent to the point where like I can talk about pretty much anything that I need to talk about. Way more fluent than like 15 years of Spanish class. So that's insane. I was like, what is going on here? Why am I? It just doesn't make any sense. I understand it was like very compact, 8 hours a day type of thing, but still. And it was way easier than Spanish. And yeah, now I've been learning for like 3 or 4 years. So I'm pretty fluent in Mandarin, and it's, in my opinion, way easier than Spanish because the grammar is way more similar to English, and there's no conjugation at all. So I hate conjugation for some reason. It's just really hard for me to learn all of the like perfect present past particle, whatever. I have no idea what that means. It's really annoying and I don't want to memorize it. So that's kind of how I learned Mandarin in the beginning.
That's so cool. What a wild experience. That must have been so fun. Oh shoot, Ellie, I think we lost your audio, unless maybe it's on my side. Mm-mm.
Can you hear me now?
Oh, yep.
I think
Yep.
I might switch to StreamYard actually, because I think Restream has some weird problems. It will like suddenly change my mic output sometimes. Like it changed it to some other headphone. It's not even connected to my computer. So
Oh my gosh, that's so wild.
I know I might switch, but yeah, yeah, and Graham, yeah, I'm trying to fix the Wi-Fi thing. It's really annoying. I don't know. The place I live now is they only have one internet service provider, so it's like
Oh,
just awful. Yeah.
is it what's the Elon Musk version of the internet? Oh my gosh, I can't
Thinking
think of
about it,
it.
honestly. Seriously
Starlink.
thinking about getting it. Seriously. Um Started and you want to learn some basic stuff, but it's not the ideal thing. And then Upa's over here. He's like a polyglot. He knows what 6 languages. The last one is a little bit questionable, this language, but that's really interesting. Can you teach us the last one, Upa? Yeah, I know. It's terrible. It's terrible, Graham. Keep on going. We appreciate it. Yeah, no, Starlink is probably a good deal. I'm not like super rural, so I'm not really sure if it's worth it still, but because sometimes my internet is fine, but today it's suddenly not. Like I
Oh
don't
my
know why.
gosh.
So
Yeah, no, I
it
have
is
the
what it
same
is.
problem. Fingers crossed, things are going good on my side though. Got good
I know,
Wi-Fi
I
today.
know. It's terrible, but yeah, I mean, I think language learning and learning how to code are kind of different because you can literally just memorize, the first the most popular 1,000 words in a language, and you can probably be okay. You could do a pretty decent job. But could you be a translator? Probably not. So I think it's sort of similar though. You know, you could learn kind of fundamentals of coding, but could you actually make a project if you just memorize like pieces of many, many different things? Maybe not.
I actually have a take on this. I have a rather opinionated take. Um, so I know like an array of languages. Like Java. I know like a little bit of C++. I've even written a little bit of Rust as well too. Like I'm very fluent in JavaScript, TypeScript, um, Java, and Dart. And there's honestly a finite set of things that you need to look for. So once you can do a certain set, you can do anything. So once you start to learn a language, coding language, you've learned one, you've learned two, you've started to see some of the overlaps between them. You know to look for variables, if statements, for loops, classes, inheritance. And once you have all of those and you figure that out in like a couple of days, then boom, and you're able to start to look up the rest. It's like how to add a package in Rust, how to add a Rust package, or how to make an HTTP request, or how to do this, or even to just going to like an LLM being like, hey, this is how I'm doing it in JavaScript. How can I do this in XYZ?
Right. Yeah, I do think once you've learned one language, whether it's a human language or a coding language, it makes it way easier to learn a second one because then for example, like if you're learning a human language, you know that at least through my experience, I didn't get this from learning Spanish in school. Okay, they didn't really teach us this method. But I think kind of the procedure that I would recommend if you're learning Mandarin, for example, I would just go and memorize the most popular 200 words that are in the HSK. So it's a test, but the 200 words that they give you in the test, it's really good. It's a really solid 200 words. Okay, if you memorize those, just memorize them. And you have to pronounce them correctly, of course. Hopefully,
Mm.
somebody is around you can tell you if you're doing it right. Memorize those words, and then start learning grammar with somebody, with a teacher. Okay, and get some of the most popular grammar structures. Memorize them. Try to use them in sentences. Write, listen, speak, and then after you get a little bit, you're like, okay, I can have little conversations. Get some language exchange partners, like 5 of them from different places in the country because they all have different accents. Maybe if it's a smaller country, you don't need to do that, but get like 5 of them and start meeting with them like 1-2 hours a week each. I know it's a lot, so you have to have like a lot of time commitment to do this. You have to have a lot of time, but you could do less, you could do it slower. But if you start doing that and then start intentionally using all the grammar structures you're learning and all the words that you're memorizing, and you will start speaking and you will become fluent. But don't speak any English during those like language exchange sessions. And you don't need to pay for them because it'd be like an hour English, an hour Chinese type of thing. So you teach them for an hour too. And don't speak any English in the Chinese section because if you start going on, then it doesn't help you at all. You should try your best to only use a language unless you don't know the name of something. You could be like, what is this? But other than that, but you literally learn so quickly. I don't know why they don't do that in school. In Spanish class, you're speaking English a lot of the time. And then they're like,
Yeah.
here, memorize the script.
Oh my
And then go do act in front of the class. I'm like, that's scary. Now I hate Spanish because I'm so nervous. I don't want to go in front of the class.
goodness.
So anyway, yeah, I think, and then later on, just apply the same things. It's the same system of learning. I think it's kind of learning how to learn, essentially.
100%. I know. I love that. Learning how to learn, especially too if you're. I mean, it's nice to have a teacher, and that's like that can be like, oh, at least a support system or someone you can bounce questions off of. But I think also too, if you don't have that and you're just figuring it out yourself, you are literally teaching yourself how to learn, and those skills again are like in like you can translate that to anything. Um,
Right.
I love it.
I think the hard part is when you're coding, learning a coding language or learning a human language, when you get to a point where you don't know what to do anymore. You know, maybe you've reached certain level that you took, or you read this book about JavaScript and then it's over, right? And now you don't really know where to go after that. I feel like that's when a lot of people, whether it's language learning or, you know, learning a coding language, that's when a lot of people kind of drop off and they're like, whoa, what's
Yeah.
going on here? But I think that's the point where you need to apply it more than ever. Like you need to
Oh,
go and talk to people or have do a
totally
project
agree.
or something.
Yeah, I mean, I could not agree more. When I mean, yeah, like there's so much I think like with regard to like books or even like classes, like when you're taking those, like that were the missing the real world aspect of things. Like for instance, like mathematics courses are some of the biggest ones. Is that a lot of people focus on the mathematics and a lot less on, hey, how does this apply to the real world? And that's where a lot of people like miss it. Like, why do I need to know the Pythagorean theorem? Um, but learning on how to apply those, like that's another level of understanding. It's actually a step up on just knowing the material itself, and I think it's like a testament of the teacher if they're able to like understand how that applies to the real world. That means they've really truly mastered the material.
Right. Yeah, I think if you're able to actually use it in a realistic sense, or for example, like if it was a human language and you went and you literally maybe you broke your arm or something, you have to go to the hospital. Like, can you actually survive in this hospital and figure out what's going on and understand what kind of things that they're saying to you, whether it's like how much it is or what happened to your arm, do you need surgery? Those are a lot of more complicated words that you really only encounter if you get into this one specific situation. But if it's your native language, you will know those words even if you've never broken your arm, right? Of course there's some weird words that maybe you've never heard of, some doctor lingo or something, but yeah, it's just if you can actually go in a weird situation that you maybe haven't been in, but you can survive and you can understand, whether it's like a code base that you've never even touched, maybe you've never worked on a product like that, but you can understand kind of what's going on, then I think that shows that you're pretty proficient in something.
I agree,
Um,
and like breaking through. I think that's I've had so many friends who are like just really smart and like just get to that point where they're just like, I don't know what to do next. And I think it's like breaking through that wall. Like there's like a wall that you got to break through. And I think like one way that you can go about breaking through that wall is like finding something that you like. Like what do you like to do, and then just try to apply that to what you've just learned. Like, hey, I'm going to go maybe try to create a game, or I'm going to try to create a marketplace where people can list their games, or I'm going
right.
to try to build like a website and like an about me, or I'll try to build like a web app, or anything to get your hands dirty. And I think too, like it goes back to like what you're saying as well, like with regard to Spanish. Like if you're not fully immersed and you're not practicing and you're not like really getting like deep and dirty, you're not gonna like learn it as well, and you're gonna kind of like lose it. You're gonna lose it over time, or you just won't learn it that well. So you gotta
Right.
like take what you're doing and apply it to other things outside of the classroom.
Yeah, you have to apply it. Like that's the thing. And I noticed it in real time. So when I was at that language school for 4 months, during I think this middle of the second month, I don't know why I did this, to be honest. The teachers don't recommend, I mean, it's like they don't recommend it, but anyway, I Facebook group or something, and it was like looking for language exchange partners in Taiwan. And so I posted something. I was like, "Hey, I'm Ellie. I'm here. Who wants to be my friend or whatever? Wants to do language exchange?" And I'm not like I'm an extroverted person, but I'm not super into meeting random strangers from the internet. Okay, so it was a weird thing for me to post that, but I saw other people were doing it. I was like, it should be safe. So I did that, and then I found like three. Well, I've had probably like 6 or 7 language exchange friends total, but like 3 really solid ones I found through this process. And I started meeting with them every week. So after I got done with my like lessons, I would go, out to dinner with these people, separately. So for sometimes like 3 hours we would do this. We'd hang out for like 3 hours. So 3 times a week, 3 hours, 9 hours. That's an additional 9 hours. But only half of those hours were actually me speaking Chinese because we would split it up. So, right. And I noticed like after about a couple weeks, I was able to actually have a lot of conversations with my teacher and understand everything that's going on in the class. And I'm not the most, I'm not really, I don't like to do things that take a lot of time. Okay. I'm like if something takes a lot of time, I get really irritated and I will try to find the fastest way to do it possible, like as possible, because I don't want to waste my time. So, right. Like the quality of my homework, I was hitting the bar of, yeah, that works. I was just writing it and it was fine. But people would spend a lot of time on their essays. I'm like writing like a paragraph about me, talking to cats or something. And then, but it was crazy because one of my classmates got really angry at me one time because we were doing some like circle thing where you go in a circle and you say like a question and answer their question. And he got really angry at me because I was asking, I guess, a question with like unfamiliar vocabulary. And he thought I was like, I don't know what it was, but he thought I was being intentionally mean or something because I was asking a question with a different word. But I didn't even know that word was a word he didn't know because I was learning so many words outside of class, right? And then he apologized. It was fine. But basically, I noticed that like the kind of the learning was really exponential after I started doing the language exchange and actually applying it outside of class and talking to native speakers. And my accent improved a lot because your accent's not going to improve that much. So I think application is super important. And the same with coding, like you need to do projects and stuff to kind of solidify what you're doing.
Yeah, and like even like another thing too, like another really great way to break through that wall is just to join a community and
Yeah.
see what everybody else is doing and like just try to get engaged as much as possible. Like try to find your own resources, try to read what's out there and try to like, just try to be active. And usually like the community like sometimes can bite, but also too, like more than not, it's like people are there to just help. Like you're joining their community and they wanna learn with you too.
Yeah. And that's another reason why. So I see Dan's here. Hey, Dan. Sophia agrees. Yeah, I think that's another reason why I think it would be really, really cool to do some kind of open source community thing with, the Pieces SDK, because then a lot of people can get involved and actually learn. And I'll definitely be learning a lot because I literally have no idea how to do that. So I think that would be a really cool experience for me. And then also a lot of other people. And then, yeah, if somebody way smarter than me could come in the stream and kind of explain things, then I'll probably ask a lot of, dumb questions. And then people will be like, oh, like I want it to be like an experience where people who are totally, new to, maybe they do need some foundational skills, but pretty new to open source or I don't know, using AI in a project, like, and then
Yeah.
they could also contribute, not just people that know what's going on.
A 100%. Yeah, I think like even you like spearheading that or like just trying to like document out in public like your journey can be so helpful for others that are like along the same path. And also too, it's like really engaging because it's like, oh, this is how Ellie was able to get going when she didn't know how to start or like contribute to this one project, but I'm going to take her learnings of how she was able to get up and going, and I'm going to apply it now to this open source project that I'm really interested and want to be a collaborator with.
Right. I think it'd be cool to even document it from the very beginning. Like,
Oh yeah.
we literally have not done anything at all. And we are now creating, you know, a README. And it's like,
Yeah.
hey, this is what this is gonna be, but it doesn't exist yet. And how we can actually start the project, and maybe like show that live. Somebody could do that, and we can screen share and stuff. I think that would be a really cool experience for people.
Oh yeah, and there's so much learnings too, because it's really funny how like when you first start a project, like sure you'll have like an MVP scope, if even that. But also like once you get some traction, once you get some contributors, like you'll see how also too, like if you're spearheading it, your role will very quickly shift. It'll shift from an implementer where you're writing a lot of the code to a facilitator where you're like, hey, these are these things that I like really would love to get done, but I simply just don't have time because I'm
Right.
reviewing these other PRs to get them in. So would you guys like to take a look at this? And then it helps people get going. And also too, like giving them like a steps to success of like, hey, like go ahead and do this or look at this line or this file and add this in there. And let me know if you have trouble.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that would be really, really awesome. And I did see this comment. I don't want to miss it,
Yeah.
before we end. I think David said pieces is a bit new to me. I hope David is still here. I don't know. Was it from a few minutes ago? And I was late to the talk due to wrestling with Twitch. Yeah, Twitch is weird. To be honest, sometimes Twitch is weird. Any chance of an elevator pitch to run through what pieces is and how to make things better? Oh, how it
Absolutely.
makes things better. I will follow the links, but just wonder how it looks from the CTO's view.
Yeah, absolutely. Like the vision of pieces like has really evolved over the last like 4 years. And I actually don't even think I got into like where we are now. But it very early started on with file fragments, which is can be something different for anybody. A file fragment can be anything from a code snippet to a link to a person to a GitHub issue, anything like that. And it is very, very much so evolved as a snippet saving tool to a proactive tool that helps you remember everything. Plain and simple. It helps you remember everything, interactable via a Copilot chat. Technology that we introduced a couple months engine that you turn on, you allow it to basically shadow your workflow and anywhere from your collaborative space, which is like your GChat, your Slack, your Teams, to your research flow, where you're looking up documentation or you're looking up packages, or you're looking at open source projects or whatever, all the way down to actually writing your code. And it helps basically the workstream pattern engine and pieces help you proactively triangulate all three of these different pillars and centralize everything in an easy to use Copilot chat. And I'm actually so excited. Like it is proactive now. However, you still have to go to a chat and you have to like, hey, what do I want to ask this thing? Which is like another kind of hiccup in the flow. Where like as a developer, it would be so nice to just have like this proactive thing that's even just like coming up with different materials for you, like right when you need it. That's highly contextualized of like your given environment. So that's actually this next phase that we're going to be moving into, which is this proactive feed. So basically, it's a move to replace the Copilot and to actually be able to surface all of these like workstream pattern engine materials directly for you. That's
That's
highly
really cool.
contextualized of what you're currently looking at, but what you've seen before that can apply to what you're currently looking at.
Right. I know Stavo compares pieces to Jarvis and he wants
Yeah,
it to be like Jarvis. I don't know if he invented that thing, but I really liked that comparison because Jarvis is so cool. So I would love to have a Jarvis in my life. And also, um, he said, I've just started using Pieces Desktop in my daily live streams building Leap Migo. So that's really cool. I love that. I haven't seen that yet. So I'll have to look out for your live streams. I need to get like notified of that. I feel like sometimes I don't get notified of things in there, but yeah, David, no problem. I hope that was a good elevator pitch. Hopefully you kind of understand what it is. But yeah, definitely go and try it yourself, and you'll find out. There's like a onboarding process and everything. It'll tell you how to use it and everything. So I think that will explain a lot as well. And I don't know if Amitesh is still in the chat, but if you want to send a link or something, you can feel free to do that. Sometimes Amitesh does that for me. Maybe Chavez is there. And then, yeah, it's really helpful and helps me debug and having access to Claude. Right. Because I recently started using Claude and I think there's like a 20 message limit or something. I used the actual Claude separate from Pieces, and I think it kicked me out like after very short time, like maybe 10 minutes or something. And it was like, you have to use it at 6 p.m. It was like noon at the time. So I was like, 6 p.m. I'm not gonna wait till 6 p.m. And then I go to Pieces and I'm like, oh good, I could use it here.
absolutely. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
that's like another thing is that like we really want to just like provide access to a lot of these really awesome tools. Like being like offline first enables us to take hits on other regions that we wouldn't have necessarily had to pay for, or that we
Mhm.
would have necessarily had to pay for had we not have been offline first. So what we can do is we can pay more for our users to be able to use some of these like cutting edge cloud LLMs that are getting rate limited. That you just ended up getting rate limited if you go
Yeah.
to those sites
So
and all that
quickly.
stuff.
It is cool, and especially since so right now it's for free. So definitely if you haven't used it, go and use it because it's literally free. But later on, there will be a subscription model and everything, but you'll still be able to access all of the LLMs
Yeah,
and you wouldn't need to pay for them separately. Like you wouldn't need to like go have a ChatGPT subscription and a whatever. I don't even know if Gemini has subscriptions, but I know Claude does.
yeah.
It's just way easier because if you don't like one answer, you could just switch the LLM and get a new answer. Pretty easy.
Exactly. So that's like another thing is like we have mentioned some like payment stuff and all that sort of fun stuff. But another thing as well is like if you jump into pieces and you start using it now, you're gonna get grandfathered into a really awesome plan. So it's best to just go in and like try it out while like everything's still free. And there will be like a large subset of what's currently in pieces. And these are additional like conversations that happen kind of internally. Um, and there's a lot of different ideas in the pot, all of which are really awesome. But like one of the main goals is like our early adopters, we're not there to screw them over. Like they believed in us and they believed in the vision. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna reward them for like coming into pieces, trying it out, helping us build a really awesome product. Because at the end of the day, we have nothing if it isn't for our users. Plain and simple.
Right.
And that's like all we really want to do is we want to build like really, really awesome like developer tools with and for developers because we are developers, which is really awesome.
Yeah, yeah. I really like that. And also I do need to turn on your notifications. So I'll do that so I won't miss your streams, by the way. And then I see that Dominic loves you. That's what he said. I don't Do you know
Oh,
Dominic?
that's very
Actually,
kind.
Dominic has a mustache, like one of those curly mustaches. So we were in the stream. I had him on here and we were talking about his mustache and stuff. I see you have a beard and a mustache. So I feel like you should have been there for the mustache conversation. It was all about how he cares for his
My
mustache.
my facial hair grows so fast. I actually had a really big handlebar mustache about a year ago.
Oh, really?
And it was just a mustache. I had shaved all this down. But yeah, where I'm losing on top, I'm gaining in my beard. So it's pretty funny.
Here,
Yeah.
this is my new mustache. There's this type of pizza having the freezer section. I don't know if you eat frozen pizza, but there's this one. I forgot what it's called, but it basically in the back of the box, there's a cardboard cutout handlebar mustache, and you put it in your nose. Like there's two little things you put in your nose, and then it like is a whole mustache thing. And I should
That
have
is
saved
so
it.
funny. That's great.
I should
That's
have
a great
saved it. More
marketing.
downstream.
That's a great
I
marketing
know.
stunt. I love that.
It's
I'm gonna
really
have
good.
to
No,
look
no, no.
at that.
That's
I'm gonna
like the
look at
best marketing for pizza. And yeah, I don't know what it's called. But yeah, and then also Graham has a question here. What is the local LM based on, or is it custom?
Yeah, no, that's a really great question. We've talked about okay. So this is actually a really kind of large question. I'll break it up into a couple different parts. What we do in house, we have a bunch of like micro models. And what is a micro model? A micro model to us is a single task. So, for instance, think of when you paste something into pieces. There's a bit of text. So this text, what we do is we run it through a micro model that runs in milliseconds time that'll let us know whether it's code or not. And then we have another micro model that'll classify it. Then we have another micro model that'll tag it and give us websites and search queries and X, Y, Z. And that's like these micro models. They're all language models, but they're not large language models. Um, Moving on to the large language model, and also to like I'm not a machine learning engineer myself. However, I work very closely with the ML team. We do not currently have our an in-house LLM that we've created. We fine-tune a couple LLMs for our specific use cases, but we leverage a lot of really awesome open source LLMs like for instance, Llama, Phi2, Mistral, the list goes on. A lot of the big ones, Gemma, a couple of the others that are just kind of like out there. But we don't currently have a LLM ourselves that's in house. However, we do provide the ability for you to go ahead and download and use that on device within your machine without you having to go ahead and set it up. And then also, too, we have a really awesome pipeline. You can pick anything and pull it right into pieces without you having to interact with like a custom GUI or God forbid your terminal. And then what are you going to do if you need to reference it in the future? But yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. I also see this message from Dominic. I wanted to kind of comment on this. He said, I just think it's so cool to hear a CTO be so cognizant of both users and products and the product. What were some of the early decisions that happened at Get Pieces that you think were pivotal to get you guys where you are? And I just want to answer this really quick before you answer. It really kind of surprised me about when I first kind of started meeting the Pieces people. I didn't like work at Pieces yet. And I met Savo, and I do this thing where if I'm need to talk to somebody about something and I have some plans in my brain, I'll like write them all down in a list form. And sometimes the list can get kind of long, and then I split it up because I'm like, I don't really want to overwhelm this person with my critique of whatever I'm about to say to them. And I wrote down a pretty long list of like things that I think Pieces should be better at. I think I don't really remember exactly what happened, but I remember that.
I'd love to see it too. I don't think I got
Yeah,
to do it.
I don't. I think a lot of the things he said were in progress already, so I don't have the list anymore. But I still have one thing that I don't think got fixed, so I'm still concerned about that. But I was talking to Sophia about it today because she mentioned it. I'll tell you about it. But
Yep.
yeah, because a few people mentioned it to me actually. But anyway, the thing is, I went through this list. I had 2 meetings with Savo, and the first one I did, I wasn't too critical. It was like the first time I met him, but the second time I like, I really kind of, I think I felt like I really was, after the fact, I was like, oh, I think I was really critical. I think he hates me now. Like in my brain, I
Mm,
was like,
no.
I think I went too far with my critique, because sometimes I can be really overcritical about things, and I don't think my delivery is always the best. Sometimes I can't tell whether I'm delivering it in a nice way or not. And then, but what I really liked was throughout the whole process, he was really, really receptive. And then afterwards, I noticed that like everybody on the team, if I said something like bad about pieces, they would be like, "Oh, I'll open an issue," you know.
Yeah.
And then I think I messaged somebody, Rosie or Savo. I was like, "Oh, this is a problem," and they were like, "Oh, let's open an issue," you know. And that was something that I really liked about the team when I first met everybody, because I was like, "Wow, they really care," you know. They don't want to just say, "Oh, that's a you problem," you know. I was like,
Yeah,
I can see
no.
people are having these problems too, you know.
It's
So
so
it's
it's
really cool.
so, so, so important. Like, I love that, Ellie. I think that that's so awesome. And I think that that's something like we have at our company, but also to we like to have as our culture as well, is like make sure you keep everybody in the loop, but like air your dirty laundry. And also too, like let
Right.
your new users know what's up. So like, hey, if we found something that's critical, like a critical problem in one of our releases, well, first of all, some of the only ways that we know if there's like a critical problem too, beyond what we've tried to find, is our users will come to us and say, hey, this issue or XYZ. And then if we find it and we figure out that it's happening to a user, we'll try to put that on our support GitHub repo immediately. Immediately. So we're not trying to like shove anything under the rug or anything like that. We're trying to like, again, we're trying to just like build out in public with our users. But yeah, what was that initial question? Because I had one more comment for that as well.
Yeah, he said, you know,
Yeah.
what were some of the early decisions that happened at Pieces that were pivotal to get to where you guys are now?
Yeah, I think like a really, really, really pivotal point in our journey was, and there's been many. One of the first pivotal moments was actually like, I'm sure you guys have heard the saying, but like taking your medicine. It's basically like, you know, you got to take. It's never fun to like take your medicine, but like, you know, it's basically like putting your ego aside and saying like, hey, this isn't going to scale. And I mentioned this a little bit earlier on in the live stream, but it's, you know, hey, what we're doing right now is cool with regard to like this tech, but we need to make it scalable for the rest of the company and anybody who's coming on. So that pivotal point was like not only like a technical decision, but it was also to like for our users. Like our users were like, hey, what are you guys building? So I think that that was a massive, massive pivotal point to scope in. That we got a lot of feedback from our users, and we listened, and we try to do a really good job of that. And we're not perfect. We're humans, so we're still trying to learn, and we're going to continue to get better on that. Of just learning from our users, for instance, like the collections of their folders, you know, like learning from our users what are the most like critical features that we're missing, or like from you, Ellie, like what are like some really like blaring red problems that need to be resolved, that make no sense, or that are just like frankly not working at all.
Right.
And
I
I
think
think
kind of
that,
putting ego aside is super important, and some people have a really hard time doing that because they are like, "Oh, this is my baby. This is my product.
oh my
I
god,
believe in the vision that I have, and it's already decided." But a lot of people, you know, maybe they have a vision, and you could have an idea, and then when you go and explain it to someone, they have no idea what you're talking about. So,
yeah.
or they're like, "I would never use that," you know? So that's when you need to like kind of pivot and understand what people actually think and what they would actually use something for.
I completely agree. That's definitely something I'm still always trying to work on. Is like depending on like where I'm at in my headspace. I definitely could do a much better job communicating at a higher level. Um, what I'm either not only like what I'm doing, but also to how it impacts our users.
Yeah.
So that's something that I constantly try to do, and then also to like just like portraying the vision to someone who's like maybe not necessarily like super familiar with what we're doing at Pieces. And I like to describe these things as like muscles, because it's not something you get overnight. You don't just flip a switch and turn it on and say, "Hey, this is like it's perfect now." It's just like public speaking. You need to work on it. You need to
Yeah.
flex your muscles so it can get stronger and you can like take bigger bites.
Right. I agree. I'm trying to get better at that, trying to, um, one thing that I know Francesco said is he started making videos every day, even if he didn't post them. And that's how he got a lot better at public speaking. So I'm trying to get better at it and slowly improve my skills in that area. But I think it's something you need to do every day, pretty much, to get better and to erase kind of your bad habits when it comes to certain things. So, yeah. And then Dominic said he thinks it's cool how people centric Pieces is, both internally and externally. Thanks for taking the time to answer my question. Soon. I know it's been going on for a really long time. But I see you're here too, Bob. Hey, Bob. I don't know if I said hey to you, Bob. I don't know what you're talking about, Maddie, with the terminal thing. I have no idea what that means. Sorry, but if you could expand, do you know what that means? I don't know, but if you said,
Oh,
I don't know what that means.
I think that was with relation to maybe one of my comments around like, God forbid you're downloading an LLM and interacting with it via a terminal. I mean, it's not that.
Oh, okay, okay.
We do have a CLI agent or whatever product for pieces.
And then I see Graham said, I always, he's probably saying it like this. I always wondered if code models could follow some language ones where they use small model to convert from one language to a core one, then create the response, then use another small model to convert it back. Okay, and then it says, so English, French, reply, French to English. Was that an accurate representation of Graham's voice? I feel like that's what he sounds like. So
That's an
anyway.
interesting. Yeah, no, that's an interesting concept. I mean, you could do that. I mean, that's the first thing is like you could easily. I wouldn't say easily. You could do that. Whether it be the right approach, I'm not 100% sure. I'm not a machine learning engineer, but what I could tell you is that work. But that's not what we do at Pieces. But we do based on different results feed them into different models. If they hit different thresholds, based on like different results and all that sort of fun stuff.
They want you to do the accent too. So
Accent. I'm gonna butcher it. I've got like an Ohio accent. Yeah, y'all
I
didn't even want
know. I feel like I could do a better British accent than that, but I can't do accents under pressure. It's really hard to do accents under pressure. Like I feel like if I was reading Harry Potter in my room alone, like Queen's English accent type of thing, but no, I can't. And then I do not know if you have an answer to this question. There's a question in here that's kind of off topic, but he said how to handle pressure in Scrum sprints from a manager as a Java developer. And then there's a lot of context here. I think it's going to cut off when I share it, but it says I have a situation at work where my product owner asks me about my project progress every day during the daily. This is starting to make me feel pressured. Also, he wants me to, develop it quickly. On the other hand, it's hard for me to stand up and tell him I don't want to be rushed. If I feel like he's using sprints and dailies as a tool to exert pressure. That's interesting. So it's like an internal company type of thing. And yeah, I don't know. Do you as, you're the CTO, do you have kind of a perspective on like how you ask people to do things and follow up
Yeah.
to make them feel not pressured, or also like any advice for him?
Yeah. So I think like one of the most important things is like, I don't know. This all depends. This is all super, super, super depending. But like
Right.
most people are good people. Like over 90% of the people are good. And I believe that at least. So not a lot of people are like trying to do that to like cause pressure on you. What I would say personally is if you're feeling pressure, first of all, I would just let them know. I don't know if I'd necessarily do it in public first. I would just have a one-to-one
Right.
and just like, hey, I hear what you're saying. You want me to keep up with all this stuff, and I can continue to do it. However, like it's causing me a lot of pressure the way that you're going at it. And what I would say is like, hey, if you go at it this way, I'll be able to receive it a little bit better on my end, and that'll cause me a little bit less pressure. So, like, one, letting them know how you feel, and using like the best thing that we have as humans is communication. You know, the best and the worst. Um, so, like, let them know how you feel, and then, and also too, you got to do it, and like there's a good way and a bad way to do it. So if you like let your
Yeah.
emotions get the best of you, like it could definitely have some negatives. But if you approach it more, more strategically, and then also too like where your feelings are like set aside, even though you're kind of talking about them, and then also to coming with a solution is so important. Like come with like a solution, at least trying to solve it, like kind of shows that like, hey, this is really important to you, and you've even taken a little bit of effort to solve it. And if they don't hear you out, then there's a larger problem, and that's potentially not a you issue, that's a them issue. And you're always going to have it, things can always be different from one thing to the next and also like
Right.
relationships are always complex. So
Yeah.
and also too sometimes people just have bad days, and sometimes people bring that into their workplace and they take it out on you, and that's another problem. But like the only way you can even like begin to start to resolve some of these things is not shoving them under the rug and like taking your medicine in this case, but actually like addressing it and taking the bull by the horns and try to find common ground. So that's what I'd say.
Right. Definitely communication is important. I know that when I was at Render a couple of weeks ago, I went to this workshop by Kelly Vaughn. I don't know if you know who that is, but she did a really good workshop. And this is her Twitter. I just shared it on Twitch. I think was on Twitch. Yeah. So she has a newsletter. I don't know if you want to sign up for her newsletter, but I think she has the newsletters like hosted somewhere. I think it's in her bio. And her thing that she does is a lot about like feedback. And I think she's an engineering manager. So a lot of her feedback stuff is from the perspective of an engineering manager, and it's really really good. She goes over, like Elder said, with the star feedback. I know she has some kind of framework for feedback, so definitely if you're trying to do some more research on that, you could look at her stuff. I know she did a free webinar like last week. I went to it. It was really good. So maybe she's going to do another one of those later on, but I'd recommend going and kind of checking out her stuff because it's definitely a communication thing. Yeah, Elder. It's really good. So, and she talks about a lot of things. I think she used to be a psychologist. So this is really about communication. It's hard if the person doesn't really, even if you use the most perfect way to communicate what you're going through, it might not go well, even in that case, hypothetically.
Yeah.
So in that case, you'd have to consider other options. But the only thing that you can really do is communicate, how you're feeling and what's going on. Because sometimes, pressure could make you less productive,
Yeah.
right? So for me, like if I have too much pressure, I'll start procrastinating, right? But if I don't have much pressure, then I'm like I get into these like super productive modes, For example, like if you ever had the experience where you're procrastinating and then you start cleaning your room or something or your house and you're like super productive with your house cleaning because that's like the thing that you do not need to do right now, but the thing that you need to do and feel a lot of pressure to do is the thing that you have a hard time even getting started with doing.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's kind of that way a lot of the time. And if your manager or whoever it is giving you too much pressure, then it could make you less productive. So if there's a way to communicate like, hey, this is making me less productive. If you want me
Yeah.
to be more productive, stop giving me so much pressure and I'll probably become more productive. But
Yeah, I also think
yeah,
that like sometimes people are missing a lot of context.
right.
Um, so like letting them know where you're at too can kind of help them understand a little bit. I think is like another big thing. And then honestly, when I'm feeling super overwhelmed with like the sheer amount that's on my plate, first and foremost, like I'll just take a step back, because that's when I'm going to do my worst work. I'm going to miss a case or XYZ. So like trying to first like clear my head. And then
Mhm.
number two, and like that can be as simple as like just going on like a 5-10 minute walk just to clear your head. And that's also too, that's not like looking at your phone or like doing this. It's going to like make things worse. That's like you, yourself, and I like go walk and just decompress. And then number two, like another really awesome like tool that I use to like really try to like dial things in is I and always too, like our minds are so absolutely incredible, and like us as like humanity like don't understand even like what is all going on there. But just putting it down on paper and like taking a look at everything, and you're like, oh shit, it's actually not that overwhelming. I only have this, this, and this. And
Right.
also, this is how I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it this way, this way, and this way. I'm going to prioritize these things. And then, boom, you just unblocked yourself. You're no longer overwhelmed. You can take it one thing at a time.
Yeah, I feel a lot better usually when I put something down on paper if I need to do certain things, unless it's like, oh shit, like I really have a lot to do. Like I
Mm-hmm.
have literally 15 things on this piece of paper, and then I'm like, oh no, I know I feel worse. But most of the time, it's not like that, and I need to do literally in the next few days, and don't put things that are way into the future. Um,
If you,
yeah, it
yeah,
really
that's a
helps a lot.
problem. That is for sure like a very common problem. If your to-do list gets too big, that can even be even more overwhelming, like you mentioned it.
Right.
So how I try to resolve that one, that works for me, and it's other people have their own ways to address it. But I'll try to prioritize it. Or another thing too is like most of the time, depending like you can bounce your ideas off of other people that are in similar positions as you. So you can be like, hey, like I have 15 to-do lists. I've tried to prioritize it. Here they are. What do you think of my priority? So they can be like, yeah, I think that's a great idea. Or maybe you can switch these two around because it lines really nicely with this. So kind of having that like understanding, and like number one is like if you're on a team, don't like you don't have to be a hero. A lot of the time, don't try to be a hero and strong arm it.
Hmm.
You win with your team, just like you do with your users.
Yeah, true. Yeah, I think, hopefully that answers your question. I don't actually know if the person is here anymore, so hopefully that answered their question. And we're going to end the stream soon. By the way, if I don't know who's still here, but I did get accepted as an affiliate on Twitch. I haven't turned it on yet though, cuz I didn't want to turn it on for our stream because I think it's going to do some stuff like with ads and stuff. I don't know what's going to go on, so I'm like, okay, I don't want to deal with that right now, but hopefully I can figure out a way to maybe, I don't know, we'll see what happens about the affiliate thing, but I might turn it on and do like a stream alone just to see if the ads are really bad, if they're
Yeah.
really annoying. Yeah, I don't know how to do it, but we will. Yeah, hopefully we answered your question. And yes, Sophia, oh yes, Upa, we're still on. We're about to finish up though. But yeah, I'm excited because we'll have a lot of cat emotes from now on. I'm gonna add a bunch of cat emotes, and then I'll add them for followers, and then also like if you do want to subscribe, I'll add some like other emotes maybe. But that's kind of the plan. It'll be fun. And then you guys, there's gonna be something, I think, I don't know what it's called, but there's a thing in the corner of Twitch where you can save up points after you watch the stream for a while, and then you can like use those points to make me do something, but I don't know what I will put. You can like wear a mustache or something for the stream. I'm not really sure. We'll see. You should. Okay, we have a suggestion here that we should add purple to pieces. I agree. I
You
don't
can
know.
you can change your like some of the theme with
Yeah,
regard to
you
the
can.
desktop app, specifically in your Copilot chats. And then another thing too is if you're using pieces in the IDE, it'll actually inherit the theme of your IDE, so it feels native.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, I changed mine to purple in the desktop app, so you can go purple too, Upa. I don't think they're gonna actually make the logo purple or anything like that though. But
About
you know
that,
what I
maybe,
did see?
maybe
I
special,
what? A
maybe a
purple
special edition. I don't know. Maybe.
maybe if you guys make like some purple shirts, but I was looking in the recently I got access to like an assets folder. So I got access to that folder. So I
No.
looked through all the pieces assets. And then there was one asset that was a cat and looking into a fishbowl or something, and it
Oh
looked
yeah,
really
and then
cute.
put the end in. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I love that one.
Yeah. So I was like, I sent it to Rosie. I was like, we should make some merch with the cat. Because I think a lot of developers like cats. There's
That's
also a
true.
little Shiba Inu or a dog or whatever. I don't know if it was a Shiba, but it was a dog kind of jumping through a portal and then coming out of the other portal. I was like, that
Yeah,
one could be cool for the dog people.
yeah.
I don't know. I don't know what's the percentage. I feel like there's more cat people in tech than dog people, but I'm not sure. Maybe I'm wrong about that. Um, I
True.
know, yeah, fishbowl cat merch is what we should do. That's my recommendation. And I think it'd be really cool, but I don't know.
I agree.
If there's like some little robots or something, I forgot. I don't have the cup here, but I feel like there should be a cat bowl one.
Yeah, no, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. MK does a lot of really awesome graphics. She's awesome. It's great
Yeah,
to
it is. And then, yeah, Amitesh, we're about to end though. So if you guys have any last questions for Mark, really short questions, like, what's his favorite color type of thing, feel free to ask. Otherwise, we're going to end the stream. I think Mark, cats versus dogs. I feel like you're a dog person because you have a dog right in your room, but
mention. Yeah, my partner and I, we've had many cats. We currently don't have any cats at the moment, and we just have a dog. And he has our hands full.
mhm.
But yeah, I don't know. It's really tough. I love all animals. But if I had to answer, um, I'd have to say a dog person. I'd have to say a dog person.
I
Sorry
understand.
to
I
disappoint.
we can still be friends. It's fine. And then this David said, every tech office that I've worked in has a pet policy. I've only ever seen people bring dogs or rabbits. Well, yeah, I don't think cats like to travel unless you train them from when they're kittens. But
That's
you know
right.
what? Recently, so my cat, he here, I'll show you guys. Hold on. Hello, Peter. I know you were resting. I'm disturbing you. So this is Peter, everybody. I think you've seen Peter, but Peter, he was sleeping, so now he's like, oh, I don't
Oh,
feel. He's really
he's a big
big.
cat. Holy
Yeah,
crap!
he's
Big.
not fat. He's just really
No, he's just
long.
very, very long. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, he's part
Yeah,
Bengal. So,
Sabo recently got a cat and brought his cat into the office.
oh
So
my god,
we do have a pet
I'm
policy,
jealous.
and it's inclusive of cats. I have not
I
seen
like
anyone
that,
with rabbit in, but have seen plenty of
Peter.
dogs.
If you guys could see him right now, he's literally just like, I put him back on the bed and he's like standing there like, why was I disturbed? He's very disturbed. But yeah, okay, the thing is that he used to be an outdoor indoor cat, so he likes to go outside and like, chase rabbits and eat them and stuff. But he recently got into like some fights. There's another cat down the road,
Oh yeah.
so I think it's younger than him, and he kind of started getting beat up recently. So
Oh man.
yeah, and we
Cats.
had to go to the vet and stuff, and it was bad. And so we were like, all right, we can't let him outside anymore because
Mhm.
he's just getting beat up. And we yes 2 days ago, I I have a cat leash that I think I've used like once, and they were really disturbed by it before. They were like, "What is this? I don't like this," because we would let him outside, right? So
Mhm.
he was like, "I could just go outside by myself," but we haven't let him outside in months. And I brought the cat leash out, and he like let me put it on, and we went outside, and he was so happy. Like he literally, we were walking outside in the yard and stuff, and he was like rolling around in the dirt, and he was just so happy to be outside. So I'm literally going to be one of those people walking my cat on a leash from now on, because
Oh
he
my
just likes
goodness,
it so
so silly.
much. I think you could train a cat to, want to go out and stuff, but most of the time, if you put it in a car, it's going to think it's going to the vet and it's going to really be angry. So,
Yeah. Milo likes the car.
a redeem for cat cam. They don't always stay in the same place, right? I'd have to have like 20 cameras. They're in different places. I don't know if we can have a cat cam, but maybe I can make that work. But anyway, we're gonna end the stream. Peter wants to leave my room now, so I gotta go feed him because I disturbed him, and now he's like, "Well, are you gonna feed me now? Because I'm disturbed and I'm hungry now." Because I don't know, I messed up his nap time. But anyway, it was so good talking to you, Mark.
You too,
I
Ellie.
loved all the conversations and I loved all the questions. So I appreciate all the questions in the chat. Really, really insightful. We got on. I feel like we didn't have a really chaotic stream. Upa wasn't trolling too much, so that's good. But yeah, do you have any final words before I end the stream?
No, yeah, just thank you so much for having me on. It was so much fun, and yeah, thanks to the audience for all the questions and tuning in.
Yeah, and thanks for coming. Thanks for coming, Upa. Thanks for coming, Elder. I see David's here. And this is Nilo, right? Your name is Tech NFA on here. So I'm like, I know your profile picture, but I don't want to. I feel like my brain will lie to me. I need to see the name and the picture. I think I don't know if I say Nilo or Nilo. I feel like people say both in spaces, and then I get confused whether I'm saying it right. I think it's Nilo. Is it Nilo or Nilo? Hard I Nilo or Nilo? Just tell me in the chat before we end it. And Sophia, by Nilo. Okay, that's what I thought. Oh my god, my cat is like breaking things now. All right. Well, it was so fun talking to you, Mark. This is kind of going to be a series, probably every week or every other week. I'll bring someone on from Pieces, and so if you guys want to come back and ask more questions, feel free to come back. And Savo's the next person, not next week because we're going to be at that conference, but the following week, Savo's going to come on. So he's the. Is there just is he called a CTO too? I'm pretty sure. Does he have a
Sava's
different
yeah, he's our CEO.
CEO? Okay, because I think he
Yeah.
says CTO in his bio, so that's what confused me. But all right, well, the CEO is coming on later, 2 weeks from now. So get ready for that, and I'll show him my cat too, probably. Anyway, thanks so much, Mark. We're gonna end this stream. Bye.
Yeah.
Yep, the CEO, Upa. Savo's the top dog. That's the final comment of the stream.